Content warning. Lore Olympus regularly deals with themes of physical and mental abuse, sexual trauma, and toxic relationships. Some of the interactions in this volume may be distressing for some readers. Please exercise discretion and seek out the support of others if you require it. We will be discussing these topics in this episode. You'll find more detailed content warnings in the episode description.
Yep.
If you are not in a place to be able to handle such materials, please do not listen to this episode until you are ready.
Yep.
It'll be here for you, and if you need to skip this one, that's okay. Welcome to the November ReMyth episode. This is where we talk about how ancient myths become modern pop culture outside of Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson and the Olympians. I'm your co-host, on break from taking the new girl on a shopping spree, Darien Smartt. Joining me is my co-host and brother, hailing from the Neo Underworld, DJ.
How's everybody doing today? Come and visit Neo Underworld. It's alright. I run half a pawn shop. It's pretty cool.
Half? Do you have a partner?
It's a booth.
Oh.
It's a booth. It's just like a little hole in the wall. You know how you go to like Japan, you see those hole-in-the-wall ramen shops?
No, because I didn't get to go to Japan because the pandemic happened.
You know when you see it in whether or not like anime or vlogs or something like that.
Yes.
It's just that, but a pawn shop.
Okay.
That's all it is.
Cool. And what kind of things do you sell at this pawn shop?
What kind of things do you sell at a pawn shop, Darien? It's a pawn shop.
That was an alley-oop for you to be like, well, I do sell this amazing graphic novel we're talking about today, because you're supposed to introduce the topic.
Am I? Well, we're talking about Lore Olympus.
We're talking about Lore, we're doing it. It's
finally.
We're
finally doing it. I've been annoying Darien about doing this ever since we started the ReMyths.
Yes.
And she's like, no, we got to wait for the graphic novel to drop. No, we got to wait for the graphic. And then I got delayed and I'm like, Darien, can we just do it? It's like, no, we got to wait for it to drop. And then I finally I bought it when it dropped. And so we're like, okay, we're doing it now.
Okay, yes. And I stand by that because Lore Olympus is, let me check how long it is currently.
It is 188 chapters.
It is 100.
That was including Fast Pass, so.
Yeah. So it is 188 chapters. We could not do justice to the entirety of Lore Olympus in 1 hour of the podcast.
Some of our ReMyths episodes have been an hour and a half.
Shh. Shh. My point being, of course we are going to cover Lore Olympus. Lore Olympus is a huge part of this podcast even existing.
Yeah, 100%. It definitely was like influential. The fact that it's been going on for almost 4 years now is quite crazy.
Yep.
And I told Darien about it.
Davis did. He was the one who recommended, hey, we heard of this. Do you have Webtoon? And I think the answer was no.
Yeah, you should fucking get in on Webtoon.
He's like, you should read Lore Olympus. And I'm like, why? And he's like, it's about Hades and Persephone, but it's cute. And I was like, okay. And it is cute.
And it's wonderful.
It's cute and also traumatic.
Oh, 100%. And I love where it's going right now. The place where it's currently at, awesome.
But we're not going to talk about that. Because we are talking about the graphic novel, which captures the first 25 episodes. So
and one extra.
And then a really neat little like bonus thing that never actually got used.
Look at how fucking snarky she looks in that picture.
So good. No, she looks cute.
She looks cute. She's like,
this wink. Yeah, and O'Hara's great, actually.
Her was wonderful. She always has been.
Always has been. This Hera.
Yeah.
so, okay. Oh, we got to do the thing.
What thing?
We got to do the thing.
I don't remember the thing. Oh, yeah. Fuck the summary. I think it's my turn, isn't it?
I think it is your turn. It's 2 minutes, right?
Yes.
2-minute summary. Okay. Getting the clock. Okay, ready?
Yep.
Go.
Scene opens up and it's Hades driving to a party. The party is for his older brother, obviously, because Zeus is just kind of like a party dude. He is being stood up and just like canceled on by what we now know as, or later learn as Smythe. She's a bitch. Then it jump cuts to Persephone and Artemis being like, oh, I don't have anything to wear. And Artemis giving Persephone a really revealing dress, which it's a little weird for Artemis's character later on.
Keep going.
Yeah. And we go and it's like, oh, the party, obviously Hades sees her. Hades says she's more beautiful than Aphrodite. Aphrodite takes that to heart and
she took that personally.
And gets either gets Eros to drug Persephone or just get her way too drunk. And puts her in the back of Hades' car. Hades goes home, realizes she's in there, puts her in a guest bed, and is like, okay, well, we're just going to leave that. And then they obviously, like, she gets up in the morning. They have a good, wonderful little time. And then there's a lot that happens.
Yeah,
it's hard to...
You got 50 seconds, bro.
Trigger warning, Apollo It's Persephone.
Well, we just jumped straight there.
I'm getting to the big old stuff, right?
Yeah, sure. 40 seconds, go.
We get to talk, like, before that, we get to talk that, we get backstory on Eros and Psyche.
Mm-hmm.
Hades, Poseidon, and Zeus all get together for a brunch. Hera shows up and is disapproving because they're at a strip club.
Talking shit.
And then it's just, there's a lot, and it's really hard to pick what's, like, more important than others.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the Apollo thing is quite huge throughout the rest of the series.
Yes. You got 10 more seconds. You want to do anything else?
I don't know.
It's totally.
And then the extra chapter is a really cute little blurb about Hera giving back a gift because she has a vision over it because it's Hades getting married.
Okay.
It's a lot. It's a little hard to do in 2 minutes.
Interesting. Yeah. Can you imagine what it would have been like if it been like, let's do all of Lore Olympus?
I mean, like, at that point, I'm like, it's the Hades Persephone myth with a bunch of fun extra stuff.
So yes, but by doing it this way, where we do it by the volumes, we get to really dig in.
Yeah, but we're gonna do like one episode every fucking year.
Yes.
I want to talk about it all
we'll do
the
two.
time.
Okay, we'll do this one this year. But the next one's supposed to come out in like April.
It's supposed to come out in July.
Oh yeah, it got bumped.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's supposed to come out in July. I saw it. It recommended to me when I bought this book. It's like, would you like to pre-order this one in July 22nd?
Did you pre-order it?
No, I don't got the fucking money.
I don't know why you fucking complaining then. You didn't even pre-order it. Yeah, we might as well just talk about this right out of the fucking gate. So sexual assault is a big fucking theme plot point of the book. The whole story.
And it comes up a lot, and it's...
Well, of course it does when that thing happens.
And that's not me saying like, it comes up a lot. It comes up a lot. And it's like the way that like when it comes up, it's cool because because it's Apollo. It's cool because like the visual and the symbolization that she uses of the musical stanzas.
Yes. Okay, so we should talk about that. So there's this whole, in which I didn't remember where that had originally come from. The first time we see the musical stanzas, it was when Apollo heals Persephone that morning.
Whoa.
So, all right, so we should talk about that. So Persephone is new to Olympus.
Her mother has kept her
in the mortal realm.
In the helicopter mom in the mortal realm for 19 years.
Well, we don't actually know she's 19.
No, Hera says she's 19, right?
But not yet. We know she's young. We don't know so she's 19.
Okay, but yeah, it's 19 years.
And Hecate is the one that tells them that. Persephone's a very young goddess. Now we get the sense that her mom is very, very protective. She does not let Persephone have a phone.
Yep.
And Persephone has a dream where her mother gives her a greenhouse, and when she goes into the greenhouse, her mother takes her to the door and traps her there and says, you have to stay inside where you'll be safe.
It's for your own good.
It's for your own good. And obviously, Persephone finds this like very traumatic, very upsetting. Like, no, I'll be good. Please let me out. I'll be good. Because Persephone views her mother's overprotectiveness as a reflection on her. Like, her mother does not trust her. Her mother just doesn't think she is good enough, that she cannot be trusted to be out in the world alone. Yeah. And so we eventually learn that the reason that she's even allowed to be here is because she is training to be an eternal goddess of virginity.
Yeah, the Tigoam.
The Tigoam is a terrible
The goddesses of eternal maidenhood.
Yeah, we haven't met them yet, but we find out, this is hard, we find out later. So she's roommates with Artemis. Yes. They go to this party. They have, like I said, I think Eros gets her drunk. I don't think he drugs her. I think that would be bad.
Yeah, well...
I mean, what he does is bad.
What he does is bad, right? But, even it's just like
But the plan was they didn't, when Aphrodite and him talk about it, the plan is just to get her sloppy drunk. Yeah. So she looks like a fool, and Hades doesn't like her anymore.
No, but we only the thing is we only see her drink once, right? Yeah. And I get she's 19, she's young, she's small,
she's never drunk.
She's never drunk before.
We probably give her 3 drinks. Yeah. We probably see her.
I see one drink and I'm like, oh, she's that hammered. There was something else involved.
I mean, yes, and usually it would be, but I think, given what Eros is supposed to represent, if he had drugged her, I don't think we can have that. That is... Yeah. What he does is pretty shitty, but drugging her is
he was also, like, being held by his mom, essentially.
Yeah, but I also don't think, like, Persephone, or that Artemis, or Aphrodite. Yeah. So I think they get her drunk, they put her in the car, but then they have, like you said, great morning, super charming. Like, they're adorable. So funky. They, like, flirt. She likes all the dogs.
And just outright chemistry immediately. It's so much fun.
He gives her, yes, it's supposed to be. This is a love story. Yeah. Let's talk about that right out the gate.
This is a love story.
It's a
romance. It's been going on for 4 years.
Jesus. Oh, and where is that? We can't talk about that. We can't keep doing this. So, So that's the thing right out the gate we should probably talk about, is that this is a retelling of Taking of Persephone. Like, that's what the myth is called. And so you get that right away. Hades takes Persephone to the underworld against her will. But also, it's like...
It was against Hades' will as well.
Hades didn't realize she was in the back of his car until I think he was, like, probably pulling his fucking driveway.
Yeah, he said, he was like, I arrived at my house, and then I saw you in the back of my car.
Yeah. Like, shit. And he's like, and she's too drunk to tell him where she lives. Like, he's like, okay, I'm just gonna... put you to bed.
And when she's drunk, she's like, please don't tell my mom.
Yeah, he's like, okay.
Oh, I don't know who you are.
He doesn't know who she is.
That's right.
He saw her and asked
Persephone.
who is that pink goddess? Because right out the way, he's just fucking smitten. Like, oh my god, she's adorable and beautiful. And I do love, so we get this thing later when Eros goes and shows up and, like, you know, just gets her drunk and is taking her to the car. He's talking to Aphrodite. He's like, this girl is the personification of a pink cinnamon roll.
Why are you jealous of this literal personification of a pink cinnamon roll?
Yeah, why are you jealous of the cinnamon roll? And that's also very endearing, because it's like, this is a shitty thing he's doing, but that's very clever of, we should say, Rachel Smythe? Smith.
I'd say Smith.
So this is the artist.
Yep.
She's great.
Yep.
She sets up a lot of character stuff, like
Isn't she also the author?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Artist, author. Yeah, she's the creator of Lore Olympus.
Yes.
And she does a lot of really intelligent character work early on that you get a sense of whether you were supposed to like a character or not.
Yeah.
And so with Eros, he shows up and gives her a drink and is
just uncomfortable with this.
Uncomfortable,
yeah, he's
creepy.
uncomfortable with the situation.
But then the next time we see him when he's with Aphrodite taking Persephone to the car, he's like, I'm uncomfortable. I don't like this. Why are we doing this? I disagree with this.
She's adorable. Why are you doing this to this small child?
Like, we shouldn't do this. And so you, as like us as the readers, get, oh, okay, this is not a bad person. Like, we're not supposed to dislike Eros. Like, okay, and his mom's like, oh, after that shit you pulled with Psyche, like, you're still on thin ice. Do you want to see her again? He's like, you know I do. Okay, well, you're going to do what I say.
Yeah.
So we get that this dude's in a bind. But we also, the next time we see Eros later, like, once Persephone is back at Artemis's house,
he is
Eros
quite apologetic.
has shown up to apologize, has brought donuts.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite panels of the entire
donuts.
series of the donuts. Well, when he shows up, she's at Artemis's house.
Yeah.
And Artemis is like, no men are forbidden in this house, and just full on regalia, like in her hunting uniform with
I just want to explain myself.
Men are forbidden in this house, but I have apology donuts. And then they let him inside because apology donuts.
Yeah, apology donuts, of course.
Like, all right, we will hear you out.
If I'm going to apologize to someone with the donuts, it's going to be from Krispy Kreme.
That's a pretty good one. I'll take apology donuts from anywhere, to be perfectly honest. You took off the time to get the donuts. But, yeah, no, it's... So, yeah, when we get Eros' tragic backstory to him is that, he fell... Aphrodite sent him to go make this mortal girl fall in love with the ugliest creature. You know, it's the story of Psyche and Eros. But Eros falls in love with this poor mortal girl, so he kidnaps her instead, but they're living together. They have their own apartment. He's teaching her how to read and write, and, like, they really love each other. But she's not allowed to go outside or, like, beyond the garden because he's like, if Aphrodite finds out what I did, she's gonna turn her into a cow.
She's gonna be super mean and oh fuck,
I haven't figured out what the next part of this plan is, so. But he's never told her who he is.
I think it's weird.
Weird, right?
It's not that it's like, oh, he's Eros, whatever, because, like, you know, mortals and gods. I think it's weird that Eros didn't at least give her a fake name.
Like a fake name. Like a fake name.
Like, come on.
So he brings her sisters to visit her. Her sisters are bitches. They've always been jealous of Psyche. Like, they're the fucking worst. However, they're not wrong when they say this man doesn't let you go outside and won't tell you his name. He doesn't love you. He's an evil wizard who's going to eat your soul. You need to kill him.
Yeah, here's a knife.
And I'm like, listen, in any other circumstances, they're not wrong, though.
No, they're not.
All things considered.
They're not wrong, but it's also, like, that reason. It's like, there's no other... I don't know. The actions of Eros, I would say, is pretty solid. Mm-hmm. And, like, for the argument of, I get this. Mm-hmm. I get why he's doing this. And even it's like, he's obviously treating her really well.
Yeah.
And just, like, as a loving...
That.
Yeah. She feels the love. And it's the reason... that they got into her head was because she doesn't know his name, essentially. I feel like that's the biggest thing.
And doesn't let her go outside.
I feel like letting her go outside... It's big, but she's trapped, and it's like, But if I'm not allowed to go outside, but the dude is taking care... Sure, Stockholm Syndrome. Stockholm Syndrome might be a big factor here, but I want to at least know his name.
Yeah, it's him. Well, I think also you have like what we see of Psyche beforehand is she has not been given any agency
Whatsoever.
Like her mother is like, oh, your father's he's invited suitors to marry. You're gonna pick we'll pick who you'll marry. And she's like, isn't it a bit early? And her mother like slaps her. How dare you be so ungrateful?
Yeah, and
like
he gets married to a fucking gross old man.
The richest merchant who literally says, I paid a lot of money for you. Laugh at my jokes.
Yeah, you will show gratitude.
Yeah, and that's when
Eros shows up.
Disguised as a horrifying monster and
horrifying monster, okay, right? Because it's a dude with a helmet on and nobody saw his face.
His like eye is like way up there, and he's got like black tendrils.
I didn't notice that. I just saw it as like he's like dark pink, you know. He's got a helmet on.
Pink
or dark red, whatever.
That's scary.
It's scary, but it's not the ugliest creature because that's just him giving him a side eye. That's how I see that.
I think it's...
And that's not dark tendrils. Those are just his wings, but dark. And that's just like magic that he's using.
No, it's scary.
Yeah, it's scary, but it's not the ugliest creature I've ever seen.
Whatever. Because Aphrodite told him to make the girl fall in love with the It's poetic. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, it's interesting because the story about like Eros and Psyche is about trust.
Yeah.
Like, who do you trust? Trusting your partner and like bestowing that kind of trust. And it's like, so...
Trust can only go so far.
So Psyche does sneak into his room and he's asleep, pulls out the thing, is about to stab him, sees his wings, and is like, you're Eros, why did you tell me? And he's like, Psyche, what the fuck? Sees the knife, he's heartbroken, he leaves her.
Goes on a bit of a rampage, killing 30 mortals.
Yeah, we find that out later. And then he can't find her after that, and Aphrodite won't tell him where she is.
Yeah.
So that's what Aphrodite has over him.
Yeah. It's pretty rough.
But while he's talking to Persephone, he very much gets a read on, oh, you like Hades. You're into Hades.
You have a crush.
Oh, you're new? You don't have any other clothes? Cool, let's go shopping. I'm going to do your makeup. Let's get your hair done. Let's do all these things. Because now they're best friends.
They're absolutely best
friends. Now they're
like,
best friends.
I'm paying. I'm choosing.
I was like, why can't I pick? No, you'll love it. And you know what? He's not wrong because she does in fact love it. And then Apollo shows up.
Yeah. But Hermes shows up.
Hermes also shows up.
Right? There's a counterbalance there. Apollo sucks.
Apollo's the literal worst.
Hermes is the literal best. I love Hermes. And like every representation I see of Hermes, there's not one that I hate.
No, Hermes is usually consistently good. Hermes is usually consistently good because he has so many factions you can play with.
Yeah, and he's always just fun.
He's fun.
He's always fun.
Mm-hmm. Apollo, you can do a lot of things with, but often it's either going to be literal golden boy or absolute monster. Because Apollo in Greek mythology is the literal golden boy. He was like the literal personification of the Greek ideal, and that he's so perfect that even in Rome they did not change much about him.
Yeah.
And today, when you see those young men who are the ideal of their culture, they tend to be really shitty people.
Yeah.
And so that's how we have Apollo,
we're going to go to Trials of Apollo quick. I love that version of Apollo.
He's the best one.
Just like even outside of Lester Papadopoulos, I still think that like that version, like before Lester, that Apollo was just always fun.
Always fun Apollo.
Always fun.
Yeah.
He's such a fun dude.
He's a fucking train wreck of a person.
Absolutely. It's not like he was a golden boy or the worst. He was like a good mix of both. It's like he's cocky. But he's not, like, toxically cocky.
Yes, we didn't get toxic. Apollo in Lore Olympus is incredibly toxic.
Oh, 100%. Guy sucks.
He sucks. He is someone who thinks they are entitled to everyone and everything.
Yeah.
He also slut-shames his sister.
Does he?
Literally, there is a scene when they're at Artemis's house, and she's going out because he's been, like, really possessive over Persephone, and, like, she doesn't like him. He's made her feel really uncomfortable.
Yep.
When she was telling him, like, about, like, seeing Hades and how nice he was and how he gave her a coat. And he's like, oh, he's just saying that because he wants to get in your pants.
Yeah, that was pretty shitty.
Her feelings, like, is really a dick. And
I'm just being realistic, dude. You're being a dick.
Yeah, and so she's like, he keeps trying to, let me help you. Let me carry that. She's like, no, I got it. I don't need your help. And he takes it very personally because he views just the act of let me help you as a golden gift. Like, I have paid you attention. You should be grateful because I'm paying attention to you.
Yeah.
Because he's a fucking terrible character. Well, great character, terrible person. He's a god, whatever. So, but when Artemis goes out, Artemis this whole time has been wearing like an athletic crop top and like leggings, that's what she wears, which I love. Goddess of the Hunt. Of course she wears a crop top and leggings.
Clothes.
Like she's about to go on a run. Like she's about to go rock climb. Like she's going to hit the gym. Like she's athleisure. So she goes out and like Apollo looks at her and is like, what does he say exactly?
Oh, I do remember this line.
Yeah.
Something about her belly button.
Yeah. What kind of outfit is that? I can see your damn belly button. Maybe you should cover up.
And then she smacks him. Right?
And then Artemis does in fact slap him in the fucking face, which I
can see your stupid face. Maybe you should cover up.
Which is fucking accurate. Also, like, but then while she's yelling at him, oh no, she doesn't. Never mind. I'll cut that. I thought she covered her stomach, but that's just it's kind of dark, so it's hard to see.
And she's a dark purple.
Right. Because here's the thing: if you've never read Lore Olympus, one, you should. It's great. Two,
Wonderful.
art is lovely too, but the way like the characters are designed, they're all like Persephone is pink.
Persephone's pink, Hades is blue, Zeus, Apollo, and Artemis are purple.
Hera is like golden.
Yeah.
Eros is gold.
All the gods essentially kind of have their own color.
But it's not necessarily the color you would expect. Like, Poseidon is like green.
Well,
he's like a
honestly, I saw
green.
I saw it as like a sea green.
A sea green, yeah, but you'd think
like an algae sea green, you know?
But yeah, the mortals tend to be mortals. They aren't colored like that.
They tend to be more I guess lighter, like...
Well, they look like they're humans.
Yeah.
They
definitely don't have crazy fucking colors for skins. They're more like browns or oranges or...
Yeah.
Lighter browns.
So yeah, that's really cool just in general. And as you meet more characters, you get more colors.
Yeah.
And it's just a lovely thing. That's, I think, part of the reason, like, what makes the story is great. But if you're just getting into it, seeing the visuals is so inviting. So there's that. So then there's Apollo, and then we get this series of chapters that are called A Wolf in the Hen House. Because the whole thing, like, Artemis is like, oh, no men are allowed in this house. But like, Eros got to come in because he was apologizing. Okay, you're here to apologize to Persephone. And you brought apology donuts.
You bought donuts.
All right.
Whatever.
But
Apollo
and Hermes get to come in because...
Hermes gets to come in because he's hanging out with Apollo.
And Apollo is Artemis's brother. So, of course, she trusts him
because later
implicitly.
she has problems with Hermes being over. And
When he's seeing Persephone.
Yeah, and Persephone's like, hey, you gotta have your brother over. This is kind of hypocritical.
yeah. And just like, okay. Because it's her brother. And so there's that element that I, as like, oh, I love Artemis, but yikes.
Well, she doesn't know, and you would let us over even if there was like a no boys over rule.
But and that's what makes this so
good.
It's basically so good because it's so hard because like you
can't hate Artemis because she doesn't know and she wants to see the best in her brother.
Yeah, because it's her brother, and she like Persephone's like, I don't really like him, and she's like, oh, I know he's like trying to look after you. I'm sorry.
He's kind of annoying and overbearing, but he's trying.
I'm sorry, he's being weird. He's trying to look out for you in his own way. Don't worry, I'll talk to him. And she tells him, she's like, you're being embarrassing. Stop annoying my friend.
Yeah.
And then, so, I follow this. Let's circle back to the song, the music staffs. So Persephone actually cuts herself while she's cooking. So they're running around trying to find...
She changed the chapter cut there, too.
Interesting.
It was at... This panel is when the chapter cut. Mm-hmm. And then... It was this is when the title card came in at this chapter cut.
Interesting.
In the book, at least. When it was like, you start it up and it's like, so yeah, it's like.
That makes more sense for this because now they're at home, Wolf in the Hen House.
Maybe it's not like, those pages are when the title card comes in the webtoon.
Yeah, so maybe it's not necessary because it doesn't always start at the top.
Yeah.
So Persephone cuts herself. Artemis and Hermes go to find a first aid kit. And Apollo's trying to take care of her. But he's so aggressive. He's like, puts his jacket on her. He lifts her up, puts her on the counter. She doesn't like that. I don't want you to touch me. He's like, I'm just trying to distract you from the pain. He's like, oh, I made a terrible impression. Can we start over? I know I can be a little abrasive. And so he's like, trying to help her, but like...
That's when he touches her wound for the first time. Yeah, it's not that, like, she didn't heal him there.
Yeah, so he touches her.
He didn't heal her there.
So she's got a rag around her hand. They unwrap the rag, and you see her hand is bleeding golden ichor. And there are music notes around it where Apollo is touching her hand. And...
Not notes, the staff.
Staff, thank you. Yeah, music staff. And so it's interesting because he's saying all these things to try to like, appease her and try to like get on like a better side because she doesn't like him, but he never apologizes. He's like, oh, I don't have control over my moods. I get frustrated. You don't seem to realize what danger you're in. Like, you know, that would never happen if I was at the party. He's like, I don't need you to look after me. But he never apologizes. He never actually is like, hey, I'm sorry. Like, because he's not sorry. He hasn't he hasn't done anything wrong.
No.
Persephone's the one with the problem. She just needs to get with the picture.
Yeah.
So Hermes shows up. He's got a first aid kit, and Apollo heals her with his magic. He's Apollo. He's a god of medicine.
He's the god of healing.
And so then we see the music staff again. So the music staff has been like connected to Apollo. And then she's like, oh, okay, maybe so he heals him. She's like, okay, like Apollo, she's like, I guess he's kind of cute. He's cute but annoying. He's like, okay, fine. So she's
if I squint,
she's like, okay, you know what? I guess you're not useless. She boops him on the head. They end up playing games, but he's like, oh great, hey Hermes, take a picture of us. And so this is where we see again, he's like grabs her shoulders, and he's like fingers are underneath one of the straps of her tank top. So he's just like constantly over in her space, like constantly like has already decided that he gets access to her body when he wants.
Yeah.
And
it's a little fucked.
It's super fucked up. And so they hang out. They play a board game, all four of them. They watch a movie together, and then like Persephone goes to bed.
He's a little too close.
He's got his arm around Persephone like the whole time. Like he's sitting in between Persephone and Artemis. Artemis is like leaning against him, and so like Persephone's kind of leaning into him. It's late. They're watching a movie, and then she's like, "Okay, I'm gonna go to bed." And then Hermes is falling asleep, and then Artemis is like, "It's nighttime. I have to go do my work in the mortal realm, so you guys can just see yourself out."
She also
finish the movie and let yourself out.
Yeah, she also got a phone after showing back up to her house when Hades drops her off.
Right, that's how.
This is a big important. She got a phone. She texts Hades because Hades gave her a business card
with her number, with his number
on it. So he texts him. He's like, "Hey, I just got a phone.
Thank you for the code."
Yeah.
She doesn't. No, she doesn't. For the code. Yeah, it's me.
It's me. I got a phone, and Persephone doesn't know how phones work, right? She's like, oh, well, it's my phone. It must say my name on the other end immediately.
Yeah.
Which, understandable. She doesn't know how phones work. Mm-hmm. It's magic. Hades sees it. It's unknown number, and he just tosses it to the side. Which, first of all, I'm like, for me, I'd be like, who is this?
But he's also Hades, king of the underworld.
Yeah, he might get a lot of fucking
maybe gets
shit.
a lot of unknown numbers. Yeah, whatever. So
he tosses it away, and he's like, and so the whole time she's waiting for a response.
Mm-hmm. So she's very like emotionally vulnerable after like the whole thing that has happened, right? She thought Hades liked her. They seemed to have a good time, but he never texted. He gave her his number, and then when she reached out to him, he never messaged her back. He never contacted her. So she's reflecting on it. She's like, I really liked him. I thought we had a thing, but like maybe they're right. I was just being stupid. I'm just being naive. I'm just a child. So Artemis leaves. Then Apollo goes up and goes into Persephone's room.
We also say that she's 19. To put it into perspective, Hades is 2000 and something. Mm-hmm. So, like, these gods are older. She's literally a child god.
Yes. Like, she's but again, no one knows how young she is.
Yeah. Not yet.
Not yet. That's not common knowledge. So Apollo goes in her room. She's half asleep. He starts kissing her. And she's like, he's like, oh, I came to see you. I've been wanting to do this all day. And she's like, I'm flattered. I don't really do this sort of thing. He's like, oh, what? Don't act like you don't want this. Like, come on. You've been flirting with me all day long. And then, like pressures her into saying, okay.
She straight up has her feet up on him.
Like, pushing him away, turning away, pushing away. Like, the way this scene is drawn is, like, so
It's rough. I actually skipped over it when I was reading through it.
It's rough. We won't describe more of what physical happens, but it's more so you see the music notes again in Persephone's inner monologue.
Like, you see the stanzas and the staff or whatever.
She's like, wait, do I like this? Do I want this? Because we get the sense that we already understand that she feels trapped.
Yeah, she feels pressured into Golem. She feels pressured in just a lot of things.
Yeah. She's just had to say like, oh, I'm supposed to be a virgin for all eternity, and she's like, well, that's the first time I've said that out loud. That's a lot. I don't think I want that. Maybe wait, is this a way for me to get out of this? Like, I don't have to do this. So all of a sudden, through this rest of the sequence, she's back in the greenhouse.
Yeah.
And we get her monologue of, she's like, wait, I hate this. This feels...
Is this how it's supposed to feel? This is not what it's been described to me.
Like, this is...
She doesn't like
happy.
This. She's not enjoying this.
And so finally she's like, I will just stay in here until he's done. Basically, like, she's hidden away in herself. And so we see the music shaft. And that appears for the rest of the time. Whenever Persephone has to reflect on her trauma and what happens to her, you see the music shaft and the breaking of the music.
Yeah.
So while this is happening to her, I think it's another thing to note is, like, we see Hera again. And she's suddenly crying. And she's like, oh, someone's really distressed. I can feel it. I wonder who it is. Like, this is we don't physically see what happens to Persephone. We get her internal, and we get this kind of being around other people. And that's really important because you don't need to show that to get that this is harmful. You don't need to what's the word I want to... voyeuristic. It's rough, right? And you don't... But the other thing is, like, you don't actually have to... We know what happens. And we see the pain and the trauma that it has caused her through the way it is done. The art, the music, her internal monologue. All of a sudden, like, she's in the graveyard. Is this normal? Not in the graveyard. Graveyard.
The greenhouse.
Greenhouse. I'll just stay here. Don't let him see you cry. And then also Apollo takes pictures of her.
Which is wild.
Whoa, because he's a fucking...
Yeah, he's an asshole.
He's a terrible person who believes he's entitled to her.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. And then Apollo, later on, as we'll get to the rest of the story, does not view what he did. It's like, oh, she said yes, it's okay. Yeah. Like, she said okay, she's just lying. It's like, I don't... Yeah, so
don't believe her, she's lying, she's a horrid bitch.
Yeah, like, she said okay. I don't know what she told you, but she said okay. It's like...
This is really late, but really late in the story, right? Mm-hmm. I love Hephaestus. Oh my God, what they did with him, and when this is really late. This is literally 2 chapters ago. Yeah. And Apollo confronts him because Hephaestus. Spoiler alert: Hephaestus went and deleted those photos
at Hera's request.
Because
Persephone eventually tells Hera what happened. Yes,
and so, or at least it doesn't. She infers it, right? She
knows about the photos.
Yeah, so she's like, he has photos of me. That's what he's got on me, and so she goes to Hephaestus, who essentially is, the Steve Jobs, the tech guy. He's made the phones. He made the tech.
Bill Gates,
Steve Jobs, whoever the fuck you want to call
the internet.
Yeah, it's Hephaestus. That's Hephaestus. And
Hephaestus is like drawn as being someone who is physically...
And a paraplegic.
Is paraplegic. That's the word I wanted. Thank you. Go on.
Yeah. And so, he deletes the photos using his super mind and tech and his awesome AI, who's essentially Friday. Yeah. And Apollo comes and was like, you're the one who deleted those photos off of my phone. Why did you, if she's like, what did she tell you? She's a lying bitch and stuff like that. And Hephaestus just looks at him and is like, I saw the photos.
He didn't say that. He's like, I saw what I saw.
I saw what I saw. He's like, and it's like, yes, Hephaestus has no fucking shits given. Mm-hmm. And I love that. And then Hades overhears that.
And that's how Hades finds out. But that doesn't happen until much later. And here
later.
we get this, and Persephone, and then Apollo just fucking leaves, because Obdi. And so then she's taking a shower, and she's cutting her hair.
I want to just point this line out. Oh. Overwhelmed, huh? Understandable, I have that effect on people.
She's crying.
Are you fucking kidding me?
He's a monster.
I know he's a monster.
But yeah.
That is such a shit thing to do. Even I'm like...
He's so full of himself. He thinks he's golden, and he thinks he's the best. And, but it's it makes sense why he thinks that this behavior is okay, because we see Zeus. Yeah. And the way Zeus behaves and the way Zeus treats other people. That is the king of the gods. So if the king of the gods gets to behave that way, why shouldn't Apollo? That doesn't make it okay. That's not a fucking excuse. No. But that's how you get young men who are like Apollo, who think that their behavior is fine because they have seen it in the men who have power. Yeah. That's what the story is about. But it's also about toxic relationships. So let's talk about what happens to Hades. So we see...
Right, the next chapter.
So we have Persephone. She cuts her hair because whenever she feels emotionally overwhelmed and her hair gets crazy long, which is a great visual.
And also, Apollo said, I like your hair that way, you should keep it.
Oh, right, yeah, because he's fucking an asshole. Yeah. So she's she wants to call her mom. Don't call your mom. You can't tell anybody what happened. So she finally she decides she's going to try to text Hades again. And this time she says, I'm sure you're really busy. I just wanted to thank you for the coat. Take care. And then he immediately calls her. Instantly is calling her.
Oh shit, it's her. I'm fucking so stupid.
So that's Persephone. Persephone has had a really rough 24 hours. Yeah. The evening before, she was at a party for the first time. Maybe I think it was her first weekend in Olympus.
Yeah, it was definitely her first week in Olympus.
Yes, I think the party's probably on a Saturday night.
They bring it up a couple more times.
Yeah, she just got to town. She's new. She's starting something big. She's going to school there. She's starting a big new chapter of her life. She went to a party. Things got kind of rough. She woke up, met a new guy. They vibed. They connected. It was really cool. Went back home, hung out, made new friends, had a really good day, and then which is
not great.
It's not great, but that's the kind of thing that you're you go through your life and you don't think this thing is about to happen to me, and you have no idea when you look back on that happened to me that day, And
was
then
just
that
like
morning,
kind
it
of
was
a
just
normal any other day.
Yeah, it shouldn't have ended that way.
I mean, not like any other day. She literally woke up in a stranger's bed.
So it's a little different.
It's a little different of a day. But she woke up with someone super comforting and just super cheerful and just charming.
Yeah.
And ended with fucking horrid.
And it's just like, yeah, but you could say like, it's like Apollo is charming too.
Apollo is charming on the outside.
On the outside.
Right? On the outside.
I would say Hades is not charming. Hades is a hot mess.
Hades is a hot mess.
Genuine.
But it's like, it's also, you look, sun god or death god.
Interesting. Yeah.
You know, it's like on the outside, Apollo, sun god, Hades, death god. People, way later, we see people don't want to say Hades' name. Dark Zeus is what we see.
His business card has a list of things that call them besides Hades.
Yeah. It's like the unseen one, the god of the underworld, the god of the dead, and just other shit like that. Or, what was it, CEO of the underworld? Did it actually say that?
I think so. Let me pull back.
I want to say that it had like some modern ass phrase on that business card. It was so funny. And the whole time you haven't introduced your name to me.
Yeah. There it is. Okay.
King of the underworld, god of the dead, god of wealth, Adonis, Dark Zeus, so it is there.
Yes, Plutonin, Pluto. Contact hands hit hands to the ground twice.
Yeah. And it says Hades as well as the Greek pronunciation of it. Or the Greek spelling of it.
And then she gives him her card, and her card still says core.
And it's also just
pink and handwritten.
Pink and handwritten.
And he's like, did you make this yourself?
Made it on like construction paper with a colored pencil.
She's like, my mom says making things builds character. So yeah, it's that. So let's talk about what Hades has been doing.
Yeah.
So, right, as you said, that he gets stood up by his shitty girlfriend.
Shitty girlfriend named Nymph or Minthy.
Okay, I was going to ask you earlier. You say Minth.
That's how I say. I see
Minthy.
it.
I don't know if that's wrong or right. I just say.
I
Minthy.
definitely don't say Smithy.
So it's probably. I mean, you're probably right. It's probably. Smith.
But it's also Greek.
It's also Greek. I say Minthy.
I say Minth.
It's M-I-T-H-E.
Little underwater river nymph.
Well, she's like a red nymph. She's a bitch.
We don't realize she's a nymph? No, they say it
early on.
And then like later you realize, oh, this is how she draws nymphs with the pointed ears.
Yeah, the long pointed ears. Hades is calling her, come on, why don't you come on?
Also, look at this character design. This is wildly different to what we know now.
Yeah, well, our style changes and improves. It gets stronger.
Like every fucking webtoon has that, right?
Yeah.
Except for those manga ones.
So basically Hades is calling his girlfriend. She was supposed to come to this party with him, and she's like really shitty. I mean, she's like, oh,
I don't want to be seen in public with you today.
Yeah, like, oh, it doesn't matter. Like, all the fine suits in the world, it won't change the fact that you stink of death. I don't feel like being seen with
that. Is a shitty thing to do.
So, yeah. Later on, when he's with Persephone, Minthy is calling him, and Persephone sees the phone. She just asks, oh, who's Minthy? And he just, like, you have these couple panels of, like, him and Minthy hooking up, and it's rough, and it's mean, and she's like, oh, you're a piece of shit. And he's like, yeah, I know, and he's crying.
Also, him taking out the glasses to see, because he's short-sighted. They never bring this up again.
Yeah.
I think he maybe has glasses when he's working on his computer, but it's like...
And then when he talks about, like, oh, Minthy didn't come to the party to her, she's like, thank God I don't have to hang out with her. And then when he goes to have breakfast with Poseidon and Zeus, he's like,
brunch.
Oh, brunch, thank you. It's family brunch is mandatory. He goes to have brunch with them, and he says, I was going to propose to her. And they're both like, we hate her, she's the worst.
Yeah, and then she... crushes the ring. Or Hades crushes the ring.
He was going to propose to her last night, and then he met Persephone. Yay!
Yeah.
So that's where Hades is at. He is the god of the underworld, dating this emotionally withholding,
and just emotionally abusive.
Yeah, emotionally like mean, abusive bitch that his whole family fucking hates.
Yeah, his whole family hates, and it's like. I just want to talk about like the whole of the relationship, right? So
we can't get there yet.
Can't get there.
So we get that. We're like, well, how the fuck do you have the Lord of the Underworld end up there? Where he's just so smutty. You get the sense that he's so smitten with Persephone because she's just nice, and it feels good.
She's nice. It just feels good. Somebody's actually being nice to him without any caveat.
Yeah,
he believes. I mean, like, and for good reason, right? That's like she's not nice to me because she feels obligated to. She's not nice to me to
realize he's Hades.
Yeah, she's not nice to me because I mean she realizes he's Hades. Later on, we find out that.
Yeah, she knew. That's right. She knew the whole time.
Yeah, and he feels that she's not nice to him just because she wants something from him. That's the biggest thing. She's just nice.
And so let's talk about Hades' tragic backstory, TM.
His tragic backstory.
So we get
aside from his already abusive relationship with Minth.
That wouldn't say tragic backstory. That's just where you're at right now.
Yeah.
Because it's about like the chapter 25, the last chapter of the graphic novel.
Is Adonius. That's how I pronounced it.
Adonius, thank you. And you get...
Maybe Adonius. I don't know.
You get just someone, a little one, and there's this massive, massive woman holding something glowing in blue in her hands. Good morning, Adonis. And you can tell, it's obviously little Hades.
Little Hades, because it's a very distinct blue with white hair.
Red eyes and white hair. He's like, oh, you've been asleep, your powers are growing. Oh, you can show it to me. And he's made these beautiful gemstones, because that's part of his powers. And we get that, oh, this is Rhea. She's the Titaness. That's his mother. It's his birthday.
So you want to call them something other than Shiny Rocks?
Yeah.
But I like Shiny Rocks. It's a fun name.
Yeah, like, oh, you'll come up with something. Oh, I'm so proud of you.
And then he doesn't, and it's adorable.
Yes. And so she's talking. So it's just Hades and his mother, right? And the day they spent, and all of a sudden, Kronos is there. She's like calling for Rhea, and she's like, you have to run and hide. And then Kronos is there. And so Rhea, this is very, very important, is pink.
Yes.
And I'm not saying Hades likes Persephone because
she's more of a magenta.
She is more magenta. She's not
so
quite
it's
as
not
pink as
it's not
Persephone.
quite as bright pink. She's more of like a darker pink.
But I think it is important to remember that she does kind of look like Persephone in that warm color and the contrasting colors, but not, again, I don't think that means anything. I just think more of an artistic thing and not as a narrative thing. But then Kronos is there, and Kronos doesn't look like any other character. Kronos is
cool as fuck. I love his design. It's so dope. I'm sorry.
He's like black and purple and like the night sky and stars.
And instead of being like
him.
outlined and like, black, because he's black, his outlines are white.
Yeah, he is outlined. His line work is in white. And so he shows up and he's like, okay, I've let you had the boy long enough. You need to give him to me now.
Yeah,
she tries to distract him.
60 days or something like that?
Yeah. Well, I think because
he does say it again.
Yeah, the reason he says it, because earlier they were talking about, like, how old are you? He's like, oh, it's like, I've already had a birthday 5 times, and now you could have one 6 times. Look, it's Helios. He goes on the world 365 days, and that's a year. And then Hades is like, oh, I'm 2,190 days old.
That's what it was.
And then later on, because Rhea's lying. She's trying to say, I don't know where he's at. I haven't seen him.
Well, let's be honest. Like, she's like, okay, go run off. I don't know where that kid ran off to.
Yeah. He's
so it's plausible deniability.
Because he's like talking, because Kronos is talking to Rhea, and he's like, oh, motherhood has made you weak. Don't you remember what Gaia said? If I let him live, he could destroy us. I've given you too much time with him. I don't even know where he is. You've always been a terrible liar. 2,190 days. So he heard them the whole time. Yeah. So she can't hide him. So it's all of a sudden he's not like blue and purple anymore. Like Kronos has turned like red and black. His outline is in red, and the whole lighting is no longer this soft sunshine, is no longer these pinks and blues. It is red and black and violent. He rips baby Hades from the ground. Hades is screaming for his mother, and then Kronos swallows him.
And then he wakes up with a jolt, screaming no.
Yeah, and then Hades wakes up in bed because this is a flashback nightmare. Then he's like, oh shit. Like, he's awake. His dog is there. He's like, okay, I'll call my therapist tomorrow. Yay, therapy. Yay, therapy. Good. So it's 2 a.m. He's like, oh, I have a text from the unknown number. And that's when he reads the, hey, thank you for the code.
Yeah, see, look, he's squinting.
Squint. Oh, no. No. Fuck. Nothing wrong with just talking. And that's where it ends. He calls Persephone, and their phone call is the beginning of the next section of the story. Yeah,
which is chapter 26.
So let's talk a little bit about what... I don't want to say that trauma bonds people.
No.
I mean, it can.
No, 100%.
I don't think you should necessarily have characters that only bond through trauma. They have to bond through other things. But I also think that the story that Rachel is telling in Lore Olympus, and heavily focusing on the physical harm, the physical abuse that Kronos subjected Hades to.
Yeah.
Literally, when he was 6 years old, consumed him.
Yep.
Like, took
and
in his
13
body.
years later, took a bite out of him.
Yeah. Like,
took a couple of bites.
Yeah. Like, literally consumed him. Took away his agency. Not unlike, took his body. You have no agency. Your body is mine.
Yeah.
Not unlike what Apollo did to Persephone in the previous chapter.
Yes.
You have this back to back, and it's because it's.
I didn't pick up that he was set free at 19. So is Persephone, technically speaking.
Interesting. I didn't know it was 19 either. I did pick up on that.
That's because it's like he's 6 years old, and then he was trapped. He later
trapped
on
for 13 years.
Yeah, it says he was trapped for 13 years, alone for 13 years, and I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed talking to the man who I'm currently inside of, because Kronos would sometimes talk to him. It's I cherished talking because it's the only interaction I ever got.
Yeah, it's fucked up. So yeah, we don't get that here. That comes much, much later. But like that falls in line with the myth. Kronos swallows his children. But when Zeus comes and gets them out, they have all lived and grown because they are gods. They are immortal. So that is something that she is playing with. Like what would that actually do to a person? Like what would that actually, like what kind of like trauma does that do to a god who now will live for thousands of years with that experience from the time they were 6?
Yeah.
And so she deals with really complicated things through this narrative of, it's like if you were someone who was abused as a child.
Yeah.
For 13 years.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
And then, so it's kind of like that allegory is like what they're dealing with here. So it's interesting in this, like, what makes Lord Olympus special, I think, is the fact that as a storyteller, she is able to do something like that. And it's not just the trauma. It's the Persephone being friends with Eros. It's Eros and Psyche getting their backstory, and they're eventually bonding together. We get this flashback sequence of Hera meeting like little Persephone when she looks like maybe she was 6 years old, and she's at a party and Demeter's hosting it. She goes in and Persephone's hiding in the kitchen because she's not allowed to come out. And she's like, you're Persephone. Oh, don't you want to come out? She's like, oh, you're just so beautiful. I don't know what to say to you.
You're so much beautiful in real life.
Yeah. And so Hera gives Persephone her crown. Now you can be a queen too. You can hang out with me tonight. So it's moments of life, of good and bad, and it's spun together, but she's able to take these myths and retell them in a different way that underlines the story she is trying to tell.
Yeah. And it's just a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And as we said, it goes on for 188 chapters and it's still going. And we're hopefully getting to a climax.
I don't know. There's a
Who's
lot.
To say? I mean, a big thing is about to go down. Oh, right?
Yes.
And this is going to determine essentially the next. I have theories about what's going on, and we'll talk about it after we're done recording this because spoilers. But yeah.
So that's Lore Olympus, Volume 1. And it's just a story about relationships. It's a story about a bunch of different kinds of relationships. Yep. And the fact that sometimes we're connected to people that we don't want to be connected to. And sometimes we're desperately trying to make connections and it's not working. And sometimes it happens by happy accident. But we're just connected. And it's also about the things that happen to us will impact us. You don't get to roll away. You don't get to be like, oh, it no longer bothers me anymore. Like 2,000 years later, it doesn't bother me anymore. 2,000 years later, Hades is still having nightmares about what happened to him when he was 6.
And I can't imagine that they're nearly as common as they used to be, but it still is definitely a fucking rough.
Yeah, because that doesn't go away even when you can work through it. Sometimes something's going to happen and it's going to hit you and you're going to have a moment where you're like, oh shit, I'm not okay.
Yeah, there are definitely times where for me and my trauma that I had with my accident, they're for the most part, I'm pretty fine driving, But there are definitely times I might be a little too fast and I feel a jolt to my heart and I hit that brake a little too hard. And I'm like, I might still be feeling it. And I don't imagine that'll ever go away, but it's definitely not nearly as common as it was when I first started driving a month later.
No, I'm sure. Yeah. My big trauma is when I was a freshman in high school, my friend died by suicide.
Yeah, that was rough. I remember that.
And so that's very, very different than what Persephone dealt with, what Hades dealt with. It's not to say it's comparable, but it's the kind of thing where you're like, I'm okay. And then some days out of the blue, I'm just suddenly deeply not okay. It's just this thing where it's like, oh, I'm suddenly not okay.
Yeah.
But then it's how do you work past that? You can never take away that thing that happened to you. That thing is always going to be a piece of your story that you have to continue to tell your narrative from. But you can't go erase it. You can't go work your story around it because that's there and the threads are now from it. So what kind of story are you going to write from it? And this isn't to say you can overcome your trauma. It doesn't have to affect you. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that that's a piece and you have to do what you can with that piece. And I'm not going to say anyone's going to do it right or wrong, but but I think the thing is all you can do is keep moving forward because the story doesn't end. What happens to Persephone happens on chapter 24. We're now at chapter 188.
And Hades has finally found out about it.
I mean, that's not like, oh, yay, but it is like...
No,
just,
it's not, oh, yay, but we
in
see
fact
his
want
reaction.
to see him kill Apollo.
Yeah, we see his reaction. I'm like, oh, yeah.
No, just his rage, which, yes, because he loves her, and he would hate anybody that would do that to someone you love regardless.
I guess this is also like spoilers for the Fast Pass, for those who are reading it and cannot afford it.
Right, hold up. Maybe I'll take that out.
Yeah.
That is a Fast Pass thing.
I mean, we've been talking about Fast Pass things. Like throughout this whole episode. Just... It's a good story.
It's a good story, though.
If you guys have not read it,
like,
I do recommend it.
Like, and this is... Listen, we haven't known my favorite character yet. We haven't known my other favorite character yet. We haven't even met my third favorite character yet.
There's so many great characters in Lore Olympus. And the way that she talks about them and the way that she goes about every character.
And their distinct personalities. And
it's always so, like, in depth. And it's like, yeah, these are characters. These characters have their own lives outside of what's going on here. Except for the most part, we do get to see what they're doing alongside of what's going on here. Yes,
because like I said, this is a story about the connections that we have with other people, whatever they may be. And so a lot of characters are connected to other characters in some shape or form, whether they necessarily realize it yet or not.
Yeah.
Like Persephone and Daphne and Thanatos.
That's an interesting one.
And we won't discuss it. It's not here. But that's one of the ones that I think of, or Persephone and Hecate and Demeter.
Yeah.
Like all of these characters and the way they are connected.
Have their own relationship that happen outside of the story, whether or not it's concurrent or past.
Yeah.
Or even future, for that matter. So speaking of future, let's talk about a little bit about this section that we have in the print that we've never seen before, that only exists in the print version. There's an author's note. This was supposed to be episode 10 of Lore Olympus, that the Rachel's then editor said that it's about Hera. This chapter is about Hera. We felt that the first Hera-focused chapter shouldn't be about Hades, parentheses, which was fair. This whole thing is about Hades.
It's about Hades.
It's about Hades and Persephone.
Yeah. Like, the first Hera-focused chapter is about her and Persephone, which is very cute. Not even chapter, just the flashback of her at the party, which we talked about earlier. But so basically, it's this thing, it's Hera's birthday party. Yay!
That, in relation, I guess, like, before episode 10, Hades does give Persephone a jacket. And
a fur coat, yes.
A fur coat. And he's like, yeah, I tried to give it to Hera for her birthday, but she didn't want it.
So she didn't like it, she gave it back to me.
I guess she didn't like it, she gave it back to me. Which, without this chapter, makes Hera seem like a vapid bitch.
Kind of a bitch move, even if you don't like it. Like, making someone take it back. Like, you could, I get... So the episode of Schmanners. It's a great podcast. It's about manners.
Yep.
They do talk about what do you do if you don't like a gift? And I think thank you so much for giving this to me. I really appreciate it. And then later on, maybe be like, hey, so would it be, does this style doesn't fit me? Or it's just, I really love it. Thank you so much time. Would it be okay if I exchanged it for something else? Do you still have the receipt? Like, just, you do not have to keep a gift just because someone gave it to you, but there is a way to... Yeah. And it's just being like, as soon as you got it, making someone take it back because you don't like it, it's kind of shitty.
It's a really bad move.
But we see here at Hera's party, like, Minthe is here.
Yeah, Minthe shows up. And they're like, I also do think they should have kept it in for to explain why they hate Minthe, right? Well, we already hate Minthe because she stood Hades up and said, no matter how many fancy suits, you'll still smell of death. But it's also like, yeah, that's a shitty thing to say. But this also shows that she's just kind of a bitch.
Well, yeah, she's like, we don't have to stay long, right? Like, that's when we see Minthe.
Yeah, she's like, she doesn't have a good relationship with the fucking rest of Hades' family.
Yeah. I mean, this one kind of, it doesn't really show why they don't like Minthe, because it could just be like, we just don't like her because she's a nymph.
Yeah.
And that could be it. I think later on when she does when we see the chapter.
Poseidon's wife also a nymph? A water nymph?
Amphitrite?
Yeah.
No, she's a goddess.
I don't know, she's got those fins, and Poseidon didn't have those before he went to the ocean.
Did he not?
No.
Oh,
like right out, like when it was showing flashbacks to the six traders, like after the war and everything, Poseidon didn't have his fins.
Interesting. Okay, we'll talk about that later. So we have it like, it's them giving Hera her birthday presents. Hades gives her
the fur coat.
Calls her Bunny.
Yeah.
She opens it up. Oh my gosh.
Which is also the thing that Zeus calls her.
Yeah, Zeus calls her Bunny. She opens it up. Oh, wow, what a beautiful coat. But when she touches it, all of a sudden, her eyes glow, and she's, like, falling through space. And she's like, oh my gosh, is this a vision? I haven't had one of these in years. And she sees someone standing at an altar getting married. It's Hades. You can tell he's all dressed up, and he's in front of someone wearing white and a veil. And Hera's so excited. She's like, oh my gosh,
like, wait.
He's getting married. I need to get a closer look.
Is that who I think it is? Or is that what I think it is?
Is that what I think it is? Oh, he's getting married. And Hades looks so happy. He's in his like underworld king regalia. We can see that it's Persephone. Like we, the reader, can see very clearly it's Persephone. But
and we also just like outside of the book, we know it's Persephone.
Yeah. But Hera can't see beneath the veil, and Hera's at an angle where she can't see the face. And so she's like, oh no, I want to see who is it. And then she wakes back up and is like, oh, I'm afraid I can't accept this. And Hades like, oh, don't you like it? She's like, oh, thank you very much. She's like, oh, it's beautiful. It's just not for me. He's like, what am I supposed to do with the fur coat? At the very end, she's like, oh, I'm sure it'll come in handy one of these days. And then Hades gives it to Persephone when she's at his house because she's like still in this like bombshell kind of party dress.
Yeah, and it's like really, again, you seemed like you had something to say when I said it felt like it's a little skimpy.
Okay, so here's the thing. So the dress, about the dress. It is a strapless short dress. It stops at just like on the underneath on like Persephone's thighs, and you see like a great deal of cleavage. Persephone is incredibly curvy.
Oh, 100%,
like,
dude.
Very, very curvy.
Yeah.
And this is a dress she has borrowed from Artemis, who is incredibly tall and lithe and lean. So, if I had a dress like that, strapless, and that kind of like length, it would probably go down to about mid-thigh on me, because it would have more material to go down, and it would just hang beneath my collarbone.
Okay.
Now, if I had that dress that had maybe stretchy material and I gave it to who is short, who is very curvy, who is very bombshell.
Okay, so it's material.
It would stretch around her a little bit different than it would stretch around me. So I think it makes a lot of sense. Like that's why the dress looks like that on. Not that it looks bad.
No, it doesn't look bad, right? It's just like I see it and I'm like, part of her ass has got to be hanging out, right?
Right, constantly. Is constantly.
Always.
Because it doesn't fit her. It's not her dress.
I just feel like Artemis should have seen that and been like, maybe wear what you were wearing, which was a traditional toga.
But she knew, she's like, she's going to feel so uncomfortable. Everyone else is wearing a modern style.
She's already going to feel uncomfortable.
Well, Artemis she doesn't let her wear her toga. It's the one dress she has because in the mortal realm, it's ancient Greece.
Yeah.
And in the Olympus in the underworld, it's modern day.
Neo-underworld.
It's the neo-underworld, it's the modern day.
Yep.
So everyone's very like high fashion, modern styles, whereas in mortal realm, Persephone wears the ancient Greek outfits.
Yeah.
And so if she'd gone to the party like that, she would have felt really uncomfortable and out of place. And Artemis wanted her to have a good time. She's like, it's okay. Here, I have a dress that you can borrow. And so she wears the dress. And it's very simple, but it works.
Yeah. So
that's the deal with the dress.
Okay.
That was my thoughts on the dress. It's like, it's Artemis's dress. That's why it doesn't fit her right.
That's fair. And then we go and get Eros to be like, all right, we're getting you a dress.
Yes, and then Eros buys her a bunch of stuff that is also really cute and strappy and like flowy because she likes that kind of stuff. And it fits her perfectly.
100%.
Because they're best friends.
Yes.
That's all I got, really.
It's a good read. Highly recommend it.
Read. Yeah. Yeah.
8 out of 10.
8?
8.5.
8.5?
And there's still some things.
Look, is it because it's only the first 25?
It's for anybody, not everybody.
This is facts. But what would you give it for your personal DJ rating?
Personal DJ rating, if I'm like, hey, here's another Davis, and he hasn't read it yet, probably like 9.5.
Yeah, I think 9.5 from recommending it to another. Yeah, I don't recommend Lore Olympus to everybody. If you don't like Greek mythology, I'm not going to tell you about it.
Yeah, exactly. Because I heard that it's for anybody, not everybody, in terms of gaming. And I'm like, that is such a good saying. Absolutely.
For anybody, not everybody's very good. Should we talk a little bit about what Lore Olympus has to do with this podcast being started?
It was just a retelling, and I know that we...
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just the retelling. Well, it's because, like, it got really popular to have, like, memes and, like, online stuff about, like, Hades and Persephone. I mean, always, but, like, you know. And so as you see more content of, like, people liking Hades and Persephone as a couple, you'd have, and I would post these things because it was cute and I just share it. You'd have more and more people commenting very aggressively, no, this is not accurate. He raped her. This is ridiculous. Like, very violently, very angrily.
Yeah, it's a little stupid.
And so I would, my whole thing was like, that fucking doesn't make sense. Like, yes, that is all a version of the story, but that is not the version of the story that we are talking about. So it says something about people who only want to hang on to that version and feel like that is the only version worth discussing.
I guess she's probably too. Because it's like, this line is really, sorry. I was listening to what you were saying. This line is super weird for Hades. Honestly, I think she puts Aphrodite to shame. This is what gets Aphrodite to be pissed off at Hades. That's the line he says about Persephone. I think that's, especially with what we know about Hades nowadays.
I mean, this is the pilot episode. You can't judge the way anybody behaves.
I kind of can. You kind of can. It's just like, I get he's hanging out with his brothers, right?
Just trying to boast.
But it's like, At this point, I would say he might be like 2 drinks in. So
Yeah,
like
drunk.
he's a little tipsy. And it's great, but it's fucking Odysseus.
Oh yeah, Odysseus also appears in here because Zeus invited him to piss off Poseidon.
Yeah.
That's the kind of story it is. You should read Lore Olympus. We highly recommend.
Great. It's a lot of fun. The art is wonderful. I think she has such a great style. And I think like it gets better over time.
Oh, it always does. It always does. It's lovely. She does great work. The story's great. There's a reason it's the most popular webtoon.
Is it the most popular webtoon right now?
It's at least fucking one of them. It's the most popular one in romance.
Yeah, I believe so. If I remember correctly, I don't even think I'm reading the most popular one. I used to like all the fucking time because it's like, oh, so top series, Lore Olympus. Actually,
yeah, Lore Olympus. Yeah,
I read 2 out of those 5.
Yeah,
at least I don't read Let's Play anymore. I just fell off.
I've fallen off a lot of them too. I only read like 2 now.
Yeah.
Well, then they started doing the Bat Family one, and that one's very good.
Is it cute?
Oh, it's
I
so
saw
cute.
it. Like,
worth reading. No, worth reading. They also do an Archie one where it's about Ethel. Now she is it's 5 years out of high school. She is a college grad. She's a journalist. She's been paid to come back to Riverdale to write a book about the history of the town. And she's like, okay, great.
Nice.
Now I have to engage with all these people who made my high school life fucking hell. Also, Betty Cooper's here.
Also, Betty Cooper's here.
Betty Cooper's here. I'm gonna live with Betty Cooper.
Yeah, I have no idea who Ethel is. I didn't read those comics.
That's fine. She was the dorky weird girl character in the Archie comics, and someone's like, you know what? She's the actual most real relatable character from these fucking comics.
Maybe to you.
No, like okay, like no, like you
people
have like
got different experiences
I mean,
with
like
high school.
I mean, no, in terms of like. Of the Archie comics characters, who is an actual real fucking high school student and who is a fucking comic book character. I did not relate to Ethel. I meant as in, no, yeah, the awkward weird girl character was probably more real than the hyper rich girl and then the sporty girl both fighting over the clumsy nerd boy.
I mean, like maybe
Peter fucking Parker.
Maybe the situations aren't relatable, but maybe the characters are.
No character in Archie comics has ever actually been a relatable character because they're not characters; they're all just tropes.
Tropes come from somewhere.
Not what this episode is about.
Not at all.
Anyway.
Well, I mean, kind of what this episode's about. Tropes come from somewhere.
Tropes come from somewhere, and usually it's Greek mythology.
Yeah.
Lore Olympus is great.
It's wonderful.
Highly recommend.
Yep.
Be aware that there are very difficult themes.
Yeah.
And it can be hard to read sometimes.
Yes.
The artist is very good at
putting a trigger warning. Yeah, like it's a big red trigger warning.
At the top.
At the top of an episode.
Whenever
essentially featuring anytime Apollo's in an episode.
Or not even like in an episode, just when it will be discussed.
Yeah.
When it will have to be a topic.
Yeah.
Not even you see it, not even something happens, just whenever a character talks about that.
Yeah.
Content warning, which is very responsible.
Yes.
What I try to do with our episodes, every episode in the captions has a content warning for anything that could be something that you want.
In the description.
Thank you. In the description. That anything that a listener is not in a good headspace to hear about. Because I don't want anybody to be coming to the podcast. I'm going to have a fun time and be like, oh, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
That sucks.
It would not be a lot of fun. I don't want to.
We want to listen to have fun here.
Yeah.
So Lore Olympus. That's it. I think we stop because we will just keep talking about how much we love it.
I'll fucking go on into
really go on about
chapter 26 to 188. All right. I will absolutely continue on.
It's a lot. It's great.
I wanted to talk about this. It's the inception of this podcast, and Darren's like, no, we gotta wait.
This is better. This is a better way of doing it, right? Isn't it better?
Why don't we just do one every 2 months? We could just do the 20. Now that we got like the 25 chapter down, we could do like 26 through 50.
No, this is
look. They're free right now. All right, it's not like they're at daily pass yet.
We're just gonna have to end it here. Thank you all so much for listening.
We could have just, again, did the 25 chapters without having to wait for the volume, Darien.
I disagree.
Why?
Because the DJ, we couldn't have talked about this.
That's fair. That is great.
Sarah.
That's fair. We could always just add it in. Thank you guys so much for joining us for this ReMyth episode. I know it was a little longer than standard ones.
Also probably a little scattered.
A little bit, but we love Lore Olympus. We got a lot of thoughts. We talk about it every time it comes out. Mm-hmm. Every week we talk about it. At least just like a little blurb or whatever.
Yes. I was going to say, sometimes we don't even properly talk about it. Sometimes it's just all caps. Yo, Lore Olympus.
Yeah, it's great.
And then it's like, fuck. Yeah. And then that can be it.
And then we talk about like our favorite panel from it, because there've been some fucking banger panels.
So while I will say, it doesn't have quite the panel work that Punderworld had. Not to compare the two, but that's just the graphic novel.
Yeah, it's just the panel world. It's just the paneling.
You can tell that this one is designed to be long form and was put in to be graphic novel form, whereas Punderworld was designed to be read as a traditional comic book style and then adapted to the long form. So panel work, panel transition is not necessarily the
There are
strong
times
suit,
that like showed only like the phone screen on like the center page, and I'm like, that's not good. There's a lot of dead air there.
Yeah, but there are also times when it's just a single panel is so fucking good.
Oh yeah,
the art, the way that the emotion, the feeling
is very solid.
We have to stop now. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.
Have a good day.
One day.
Night.
Well, one day we'll have a really good sign off for our ReMyth episodes, I think.
Yeah, one day.
Can we model that after Lore Olympus? Is there something we can say?
I have no idea.
I don't know either. We need to end this episode right now. Please stop.
Have
recording.
a good one.
Hit it. Hit it.
Oh, God.
Get us out of here. Muses of Mythology is created and hosted by Darien and DJ Smartt. It's edited by Darien Smartt. The show is produced by Darien and DJ Smartt, as well as
Tim O'Connor, The Crystal Con Man, Nicholas Miller. Our music is Athens Festival by Martin Hain, and our cover art is by Audrey Miller. You can find her on Instagram at Bombshell Nutshell Art.
Want more Muses of Mythology? Support the show on Patreon. Just $1 gets you exclusive bonus content. Get more at patreon.com/Muses of Mythology.
You can also support the show by leaving a review at lovethepodcast.com/Muses of Mythology, or tell a friend why you love the show.
Don't forget to check out all of our episodes and episode transcripts at musesofmythology.com.
Thanks for listening.